let's say 5 years. And yeah, like she lived on Venice Beach at one point.
Oh, nice.
You know, like in like a studio or whatever. Yeah, so she, like definitely saw some cool stuff. We're like kind of a USC
nice
student. Yeah, totally. It's got the weather. It's got these beaches.
People
and
more laid back.
Pier. Yeah, definitely. There's that. You know, I went on a road trip cross country when I was like 22, and we stayed for a little while in Santa Barbara. That felt crazy laid back. Like compared to LA, which is still a city where people are trying to get it done.
Yeah, Santa Barbara. I've been to Santa Barbara.
Yeah, where do you fall on like the preferred laid back scale? When you have like Santa Barbara on one side, and then you have like I don't know what's like the most uptight place, like.
Also, by the way, maybe
right, our next door neighbor.
Maybe we should just get into the show. Also, officially,
we're in.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were.
We're in now.
Now we are. We are on Sessions with Mary Jane with your hosts, Jordan Freed,
Reena Ezra,
and Brendan O'Brien.
And we are here with a very hilarious and talented comedian and game show host of the Stoned Variety. So we're really blessed to have him here today. Give it up for Alex Grubard.
Hello, I'm Alex Grubard.
Like shouting into a tunnel.
Yeah,
hello.
You can't hear them, but they are also saying hello to you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, man, I'm going to LA soon.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm doing the 18th. You know, I'm doing a show. I'm doing Waiting Out the Stone there, and I haven't been to LA in like. Probably a little before COVID, I guess. Maybe. Yeah. And like, yeah, it's always, I feel like it's so far. I like so rarely get there, you know?
Yeah.
It is also like an enormous scene and stuff and place to do comedy or whatever, or even visit is like, yeah, I mean, I'm not from there. It's not like, you know, a million people out there either.
Well, yeah, it's pretty pompous to say you're going to go across the continent, right?
Yeah, it
like
does feel like
continent.
Insane. Yeah, I know. What are you doing? Come on.
It's so far.
Especially if you're driving and you're like, about gas. You're just like, it's nothing. And you're like, what? Who are you?
Yeah. Dude, I know. I'm glad I'm not driving. Like, all of a sudden, that would have, like, really screwed me. Like, I bet. I haven't like thought about it that way, but like, oh man, that would have been nuts. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, I should have like picked a spot in the middle, like Chicago, to hit, but I didn't. I don't know. I'm still learning.
Nice. Well, I do want to find out more about the origination of Weeding Out the Stone and the differences between New York City and LA. But first, we're going to assign you your challenge.
That's right, Alex.
Oh, okay.
So as a game show host and game aficionado, you will hopefully appreciate our challenge for you today, which is to name as many game show hosts as you can think of throughout the course of the podcast. Yeah. Oh, you guys can't see this at home, but Alex just gave the like most knowing, like I got this face of all time.
Man. Yeah. So confident. So we will be recording it. You can interrupt at any time. You can stop at any time. The length of it, you get as many as you want. You know, you're a winner no matter what.
Is it throughout the podcast?
That's correct.
Oh, great. Can I just start naming?
Go for it.
Now? Mark Summers. Let's go right away, right? With some Mike O'Malley. Yeah, so I don't know. That's two, right? I mean, we get Dave Sub, too. That's just Nickelodeon right off the top of my dome.
Yeah.
You know?
What is it about? Yeah. What is it about them that you think makes them the first two that you named in this list of game show hosts?
What do you think? I watched a lot of Double Dare. I watched a lot of Get the Picture, hosted by Mike O'Malley, and Guts and Global Guts. Let's go for the results. I don't know if you guys were watching that stuff, but you know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of Nickelodeon, and there was something about like the way Nickelodeon did game shows that is like, just as I'm thinking about it now and talking about, and they were the first two people I said. They're also, there's just such a silly thing to that. There's something about like real like raw television with game shows. I like the idea of like when you asked about the origination of Waiting Out the Stone, there was a time where I was trying to think of like concepts for shows that couldn't air on television strictly because of what they were I had a game show about curse words and stuff like that. And then that was definitely a time I was trying to think of stuff like that. And I feel like Nickelodeon did a lot of these interesting game shows that you just wouldn't live anywhere else. Not until like Adult Swim or something existed could you see something like Double Dare even if it was for kids, you know what I mean? It's just like that kind of craziness.
That is the branding, I guess. They find what is unique and special to Nickelodeon. It's the only thing you can do at our studios, and people know that this is ours, right? So
totally another aspect. Like it's something they can do in studio, like on their lot.
Yeah.
As a kid, I certainly wasn't thinking about like studio lots, but
yes,
it is like one of those things about game shows that are like for television. It's still real raw. Like I love old Steve Allen stuff, and like watching old like Groucho Marx stuff where they're just like really doing it off the top of. There's just no the pre-production is minimal. They're not doing a lot of takes. They're not even saving a lot of these episodes, right? All those Johnny Carson tapes are gone from even the old Tonight Show. He was a game show host, by the way.
Yes.
Making sure I'm getting some in there. But
Weeding Out the Stone could play as both. Like you could do that in whatever lots you whatever, have a live audience and record it.
Right.
Like that's
the goal. If anyone, I don't know.
Which is you've been to too many spots though. You've been to
is there such a thing as too many though? I don't think so.
I didn't say too many.
Sure.
I said many.
Oh, too many. Sorry,
You've
I'm
been
high as fuck.
You've been traveling around. Like we know New York City Asylum.
Right.
Well, please share anywhere else that you have been that people, if you have upcoming shows you're looking to have somewhere. I mean, might as well plug it now while people are.
Yeah, so, I'll definitely, check out weedingoutthestone.com. You can buy tickets on our website, and you can also follow us on Bands in Town. Is a really easy way to see where we're performing next, where the show is coming, and get tickets for that. Bands in Town. It's a pretty sweet app, actually. I started this show in Philadelphia in 2015. And there was this comedy festival, which was called $5 Comedy Week. It was 30 brand new shows, all for $5 within a week. And started then. It was super fun. Weeding Out the Stone was a popular one for it's the third incarnation of $5 Comedy Week. That became Good Comedy Theater in Philadelphia. So then Weeding Out the Stone, and I was already doing a game show, Curses, and then something else and stuff. So I had a monthly time slot right after $5 Comedy Week happened with Weeding Out the Stone. It was such a hit, we just inserted that into the other game show slot. And then they opened the theater, doing Weeding Out the Stone twice a month. We moved to Fridays. It was going even better. We had been a Wednesday show for the first 2 or 3 years, you know? It is funny to think about. It's one of those, it's still underground. We definitely at times felt like we were getting away with something. And then at other times, it's a show. Welcome to putting on a performance. Nobody is ever going to really mess with us. We've done right now it's the Weeding Out the Stone has been in 12 different recreational states and Delaware, but is probably about to legalize, and we've done Virginia and they've legalized. So I think when Weeding Out the Stone comes to town, you legalize pretty soon after. Just say that way. Let me see if I can rattle them all off, and then we have a ton of upcoming shows. So, we've started out in Philadelphia, started doing in Delaware pretty quickly. I grew up outside Boston, so we did Boston, Worcester. I'm trying to think of where we did after that. Then probably Baltimore, Richmond, Denver on a trip. I did Santa Fe before. I've done Suffern, New York. There's an improv theater there. And then the pandemic happened. I was going to do a tour for 2020. Hit a bunch of places, some for the first time, some hitting them again. I've done Jersey City because I live in Jersey City, of course. at WFMU Money Hall, and then actually recently at SIP Studios, and we're going to be there monthly. It's like always throwing stuff at the wall. I was doing this 2020 tour, it didn't happen because of the pandemic, so I'm now doing it this April, so this upcoming month. We got 13 dates, I believe, 12 cities, and yeah, it's going to be great. We started doing Asylum last year, so 2021 was like a pick-me-up year. Did New York City for the very first time. We're still doing it at Asylum, but I'm also doing it around town, trying to like see other spaces and get it in front of different audiences and New York's so big. Just kind of grow the show, see if we can get like different film footage of it, just tons of different stuff of it, and like kind of see what we can make of it, who's got different ideas, all sorts of things like that. So we just did a Sesh Comedy this past Friday, and then this upcoming tour, rattle off these places. All right.
Do it.
So April 1st, this Friday, The Lab, Ambler, Pennsylvania. Then I'm doing Kevin Smith's Smodcastle the next day, April 2nd, in Leonardo, New Jersey. It's 2 shows, 7 and 9. Yeah, that's nuts. He's a sweet podcast theater right by where he filmed Clerks and everything. It's crazy. So yeah, cool to get some footage there. It's going to be super fun. Great. I love these Jersey things. I live here. Jersey's recreational. Let's beat New York City to some like fun Jersey weed stuff, right?
Yeah. What are the biggest differences that you notice between definitely between New Jersey, but then other places you go, whether it's like the comics themselves or just like the way that the audiences respond to the show?
I mean, the audiences respond really well to it, no matter where we've been. It's always been pretty good with the crowd. I would say some comics like, get creative with it. Honestly, a lot of times when you go on the road, people think stuff that I just like hasn't come up before. I never would have thought the game would take that direction, and it's really fun. Different comedy scenes kind of like have different priorities or different skill sets that they, utilize more often, or certain people have different talents and that kind of thing. So, you could do a game for a year in Philadelphia and people do all sorts of funny stuff, and then you go somewhere else and somebody does just a little bit different of a thing, and I don't know if it's that comic or that scene a little bit, and it could spark a whole thing with the show too, where other comedians on stage can be inspired by that. So I mean, it's fun having like a whole comedy scene up on stage. Like it's fun to do stuff like that in each scene and have like a new crop of characters for the show. It's also like when you do the show in a city for like a bunch of times and you're using the same people, like they get pretty serious about it. Like that first time, everybody's just having fun, but then everyone's like, well, I'm trying to get to the end. I don't want to be eliminated. So that can sometimes change a little bit of what's going on. But yeah, the audiences have all been really great. I mean, I think we were really surprised early on, and because it started in Philadelphia when weed isn't legal and like recreationally. There aren't dispensaries open, blah, 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 for recreational weed. And we did Denver thinking like, oh, what's this going to be like? Because maybe it's like not interesting. And we sold out like a Monday, like I was just blown away at how into it everybody was. I thought like, oh, there's probably a pretty good market for this once it's legalized.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? Right?
Yeah, but I do have to say, you are a very charismatic host. You're very definitely, yeah. We've seen you in action, and you're a great communicator. You also just know how to, it just transcends, it just goes to the crowd with like how charming you are with people who are high. Like, it's great. You have to be that type of person who knows how to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not manage, but
engage with.
Yeah, exactly.
Stoners,
yes, exactly. Right. That is the crux of the and
appreciate it.
And also like when you have a projector and when you have just bouncing back, where if you remark on something that they've said or done, and you're doing like everything's always like light and uplifting and fun and do it like if it's peculiar, it's still like it just meshes so well, and it.
I like having a game show. There's something about like being in the game show that's like a fun, especially when the game is so silly that you can it keeps it light. Like people say stuff and they're nervous and they in any art form, but they're high on weeding out the stone and they're trying to be funny, and so people will trail off at times. You're like, it's okay. Like it could just be a setup. Like there are so many people up here. Everyone's here to win anyway. Like they're laughing. It's a comedy show, but like they do get engaged in that way. So it's like this extra safety net, in a way like that. Whereas like stand up, like they're only there to laugh and maybe heckle. It's like bad the second thing.
Yeah.
But with weeding out the stone, the safety net is like there is a game, there's a follow through. Things can't get off track that much because you just go to the next game.
Yeah. It's a lot of energy, but you definitely do rein things in if it needs to. You definitely do keep it as structured as it needs to be, or as, like you were saying, keeping on track. Because also you have a certain amount of time, and like you were saying, there's so many other variables. I mean, it's not just you up on stage, and also there's the audience interaction. You give the audience a lot of power where they're choosing. Like your game is based on like the ending is they determine so much. So it is a very interesting trust to see happen back and forth live.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, learning all those kinds of things. I mean, we weren't doing some of that crowd interaction. We were doing some of it, but not other things early on. And, just all sorts of different things that you're saying, like giving the audience that kind of power. Like I compare to the show to like Price is Right, Bob Barker's Price is Right, Drew Carey's Price is Right, that kind of thing, because they're yelling from the crowd like 1600, 420, 69, whatever, like numbers. It's just, I mean, they always yell numbers on Price is Right.
Old numbers.
So that but they're yelling out like that when people are yelling out in a way to a contestant, on weeding out the stone. So there's some like inspiration from that. I mean, a lot of it's crazy having like the crowd. The interactive thing is part of the fun. I mean, that's part of what people like about game shows. It's what makes a show like Weeding Out the Stoned or Price is Right like so exciting, because they have that live audience. Whereas like Regis Philbin's, who wants to be a millionaire, they're very subdued.
It's a very serious game. Like the lighting's very dramatic.
So
Everything about that game is like, are you ready to
music,
win or lose $1 million?
I used to Tyler host that now, I think, right?
Oh yeah.
She went from Whose Line Is It Anyway to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh, she hosted Whose Line Is It Anyway?
No. It's a different person.
Who is it? Because it was Regis and then like Meredith Vieira for a while.
I knew there's been like 4, I thought. Maybe I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different mood. That's definitely
subtract a point from me.
Yeah, I think I know who it is, but I don't want to say it because I'm realizing.
You're giving him answers.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
I know.
I do. Mary Jane works in funny ways. Sometimes she makes people forget about the challenge.
I didn't
Sometimes
even realize
she gets some freebies out of some of us. So
lucky you do.
Yeah.
So before you cultivated the idea for a game show, which also you gave me when you said Weeding Out the Stone and Price is Right, I was just like, oh my god, what if there's a show where they have to like the price, like guess what the price would be of certain bags of weed? I just said bags of weed, but like like how much is this Kush cost?
Right. Yeah.
You get whatever prize. But before that, you said you grew up in Boston, around Boston.
Yeah, I grew up outside
Boston.
Concord, Mass.
Okay. Were you the only one who gravitated toward the arts in your family?
My family?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Kind of in my family. I mean, I'd say that everybody's funny, though. I come from one of those kind of families.
Gotcha.
Like, the whole family's funny. But yeah, I have one sister's in like marketing, one sister's a chef, and they, have their creative elements for certain, I'd say, in their jobs, their daily lives.
Yeah, definitely. But nobody else gravitated toward comedy, like specifically stand-up
No
comedy.
one's doing stand-up yet, but it could happen at any moment.
Your parents? Can you see them? One of them?
maybe. I think one of my sisters would probably be first, but yeah, my dad. It could happen.
Yeah.
My mom would do it once, and then be like, never again.
Yeah. Who's the person in your family that consistently makes you laugh the most?
Probably my sister Allie. I guess she's always on. You know, she's the charismatic one. I'd say. You know, yeah. I mean, everybody's funny. Like I said. I mean, yeah.
So, what age
you know.
was the first time you tried stand up?
Oh, I mean, I was pretty young. I started doing stand up basically like 18. And I kind of had like hosted things in high school. Like my high school had a radio station.
Cool.
And we did a battle of the bands that I hosted 2 years and stuff like that, kind of around with like MC.
Yeah, you really got your experience in
here and there.
Yeah.
And then, right, so then I dropped out of college after one semester, and my dad lived in New York, and I moved to New York for about 6 months. I started bar backing at New York Comedy Club. And for stage time, and then I moved in with some people that I like knew in Philly from dropping it like from that one semester for like another 6 months in Philly, and then I was like working there and like trying to do some mics and stuff. I'm still like maybe 19 years old at this point. By the time I went back to New York, I was still bar backing.
Oh wow!
Moved back, yeah. So I was going back and forth, and I also grew up in Boston. So I'm basically like. Just, you know, the Chinatown bus, I like learned about it at 18, and I'm just like using the Mahwah bus like endlessly and Lucky Star going from Boston to New York to Philly to New York to, you know, blah, blah, blah kind of thing for like a year, you know, not really a year, but like, who knows? Yeah, I guess a year. I was like doing those trips a lot, let's say. And then like trying to do comedy, trying to figure out what that even means, you know, like, then I moved back to New York, but like in with some comics I met, and like, you know, I was blah, blah, blah eventually. And then I was like living there. Then I found another place with comics. And eventually, you know, I'm like, you know, I've been living with comics for 4 years, 3-4 years. I'm like 23, 24 now. I've been doing stand up like 6 years, like kinda, right? 5 or 6 years. And I was like, what am I doing? I was working at a warehouse, and, you know, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't the end of the world. But I was like, kind of like, just kind of dawned on me like, oh, I could do like anything else. Like I could be doing this forever. I could be like living with a bunch of roommates in Brooklyn, hacking away at stand-up mics, having no idea what any of this means for like years. I like know a bunch of these guys now, and like there are people in their 30s that live like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I was like, if I don't move out of New York now, I never will. Like I just won't do it. So I started looking at going back to colleges. I went back to the college that I dropped out of. You know, makes the most sense. And it was a good move. I mean, there was a reason I went to Philly in the first place. I liked Philly. I had some connection to it. Philly was a really good scene to me. Like I knew it was a good scene, but like I didn't even realize like how good of a move that would be. It was like a pretty at the time. I mean, got pretty comfortable there, and then yeah, that's where I started weeding out the stone. Eventually, I mean, the whole time I've been throwing stuff at the wall, but definitely going back to college and going to Philly, having like all this experience of what New York comedy can be like, or sometimes is like, or whatever. The ever-changing aspect and all that sort of knowledge. Then I like go to like some fresh, clean slate to me, like kind of know my way around, but I don't know people really. I knew a couple of comics from back in the day that remembered me. And yeah, I was able to like get in pretty quickly as like kind of one of those like you moved out of New York or something. Like I felt at the time like your stock already goes up. So then all these New Yorkers that like you kind of knew would come to town and be like, oh, I know you, you know, even though like, you know, in New York, there's going to be other people around that they know better. But in Philly, I was the guy they knew the longest, like things like that. And, you know, and I'm a game show host. Everybody likes me. No, I'm
I had to ask how was it living with other comics? Is everyone just like depressed?
Sometimes, you know, like in New York and Philly, like one of the differences between that was everywhere I lived in New York, like we never had a living room. We always kind of like had one room or two rooms that we maybe hung out in the most, but like, really, or the kitchen the most, but like
a lot of kitchen talks.
right,
Everybody has
exactly,
their fair share of kitchen talks, yeah.
right.
Or if you
And
got a hallway, you just sit in that random hallway.
oh
And
yeah,
you will just have so many talks in the hallway.
Bathroom, taking a poop. Come on, we all have them, right?
We've not done that.
No
I
toilet
need
talk.
the rent. Yeah, no. But yeah, we had like that kind of situation going on all the time. So you just never invite anyone over. And then in Philly, we were just inviting people over all the time, just hang out in the living room. Even when we had a living room that was like the smallest thing in the world, we would just cram like 12 people in there and get baked and hang out. You know, people would play games. Like Philly was a lot of fun. It was a lot of like, here's a mic at 8 in the city. Like you're done, like on a Monday or Tuesday, even you're done at, you know, 11. Let's go hang out until 12 because some of us live right here.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. It's cheap. It's not, oh, I have to take the train 12 stops into Brooklyn or whatever. I'm far away from where I am right now. It was, hey, one of us in a car and you live within a mile of here and parking for free. And it, you know,
there you go. Yeah.
So hang out. Beers are cheap. Do take out. Dude,
Nice.
it's a paradise. But it's like I definitely got to do a rhythm where like you're hitting mics and shows like regularly on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday you like can get gigs in the suburbs and gigs in town, and there's like a lot of monthly shows that happen on every day of the week, you know, and blah blah blah. It was great.
Yeah. Does the fast paced kind of like very like on lifestyle of comedy, is that one of the parts of it that appeals to you?
I think so. I get addicted to that part a little bit. Yeah, that kind of thing where you just like, you know, it's easy to work on something when you're like physically on stage, you're like actually doing it. But, you know, when it's like, hey, you got to fill this day with some other aspect of entertainment that isn't entertaining, or even writing, you know, it's a little more like, well, what is it? What is that? I don't know. I'm still always trying to figure out that kind of stuff, like any extra entertainment stuff to like make it all work, and work better, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, pick at it. That's how it is. It's just a scab to me, you know. It's just fucking. I can't stop, but I'm bleeding. You know? No, I mean, yeah, there's definitely something exciting about that. Like you know, when I did drop out of college, it was like I was trying to like write and getting into writing, get into movies, and there was definitely something so immediate about stand up that was so thrilling and like cool. I still find like that thing to be really romantic. I mean, I always did. Now everybody likes comedy, but there was a time where it felt like, you know, I mean, every nerd's got that story, but you know,
that's why it's interesting though. You do like game show style. You know, that's why it's interesting that it's because I honestly before yours I did not know of anybody else who's doing something of that nature.
Yeah, it's fun to like throw stuff like that at the wall. I think it really dawned on me in Philly too, is surrounded by a lot of different groups and a lot of good people. And the people that started good, you know, Kate Bamford and Aaron Evans, they had a really good idea and vision that I think people didn't really think about that much, and that you know, you can really put together a whole production using very little. Using technology that we have on Google for free, you know, things like that.
It's simple but effective.
Yeah, you just get creative with it and do silly things. It doesn't have to be over the top. And if you have a good premise, a good idea, I mean, it kind of even goes. I mean, another stonery thing, but like. Just being able to put together your own projects. Like I think a good example of this kind of stuff is like super high me. Like, Doug Benson was doing stand up. He was a weed comic, but he wasn't like Doug Benson, the weed comic. And he had a stand up joke that was like, I'm going to do super high me. And then they did it, a production company was like, let's do it. And I think there's, that's one example where it's like, who knows how that deal went down. But I think a lot of us in entertainment, we like wait for things to happen to us. Certainly that's what I thought entertainment was. Be undeniable, be funny. And then it's like, things are really happening. Or you're like, I'm getting laughs, but am I funny? I have no fucking idea because I'm not on, Live at Gotham. I don't fucking know. That kind of thing. But so I mean, eventually you're like, what's the go your own way? How do you do things you want to do that you think are fun? How do you make them better? How do you get an audience for them? How do you make money off that? Blah, blah, blah. There are obviously lots of ways to do that now. I mean, it's hard to make a killing. It's not exactly a get rich quick scheme. It's a full-time job. And then some.
You got to be patient with it and persistent, though, but you have to create your own opportunities. Because like you said, it's not going to fall into your own lap. And people be like, oh, I'm ready. Like, whenever it comes to me, like, I have this and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, everybody's their own producer now, especially with the advancement of tech. But I do love how it's gone back to, it was like that before the pandemic, but also gave it a little boost when people wanted to go back outside after quarantine, where people are taking their acts on the road, and you have like your game show. It is like, vaudeville again. It is like there's the road show, and like it's doing, and then you just have a bunch of just a mix of people having their own flair and come to your town and you're like, oh, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah, see all the comics that you can see all the time. Hi. See if we can figure out which one isn't. Yeah, it's been so much fun, and like sticking to a premise and like just expanding upon that, has been a really good lesson in production and, just writing, everything like that, putting together. I mean, it is one of these things where obviously you're doing this as a comedian, as a producer of basically anything, but you're wearing so many hats, and you're like, do I study how to be a showrunner? Because I guess I'm doing that. Do I study how to do every aspect of television production or theater production or something? I know, and I've already done a lot of that stuff. I was a bar back at New York Comedy Club. I haven't, half managed a club for a night or two. I mean, but so you do figure it all out.
But there's more appreciation for it, right? I mean, you do, when we do our stuff and you now understand like every single piece that has to come together, and you have to, now you're just like, oh, all right. Well, I mean, it's like when you work for a boss where you're just like, I respect you because you know how to do every like other job.
I was just thinking that exact same thing, because you're dead on. That's who a manager should be of every place. Is just like they know where everything is, like the whole is. They know where fucking every situation is, and what to do about it as best they can. Because a lot of times, it's like, it ain't my place. I just run shit here, and you could like easily be like, and I don't give a fuck, or you can be like, this is the greatest place ever, even though it's got a few flaws.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What do you think are the best like 3 comedy scenes in the country? I feel like you've gotten around to a bunch of different comedy scenes. Like if somebody was about to start and you were like, "Here, young one, like go off into the world." Like I would say go to this city right now. Like where would you send somebody?
So those are 2 different questions.
Oh.
I don't hate to be you like that, but like what are the 3 best, and where should you move if you are just starting are 2 different things. I think I'd say you can make, if you're just starting, you can make any big city the like one that's right for you, really. Like, so you want to move to want to go, because if I tell you that it's I don't even know what, Minneapolis, and you don't want to be cold, then you're going to be miserable. So, like, don't go there. But if you want to be in Austin, or you want to be in Denver, or you want to be in Atlanta, then you pick one of those kinds of things. Like you go to the place. There's also a thing about now it's tougher because you guys are in Jersey, right? Like, well, like we live in the New York area, but like there's definitely something to moving to the big city that's not the biggest one. So a Philadelphia instead of a New York, or a Boston instead of a New York, that kind of thing. Even so, it's tougher in the Northeast because the cities are closer together, and people have a tendency to go, "Oh, well, New York's right there. I'm going to move there right away." I'd say like you don't do that. You go if you live in a suburb of Boston, you move to Boston, even though New York City is only 4 hours. Even though if you live in southern Georgia, the biggest city is Atlanta. There might be a small college town that you might do for like a year, but like really you want to be a big one in that area, that market, whatever the best comedy scene is in that like chunk. But you something that is a secondary city first is what I would say. So not New York or LA. You can only move to New York or LA for the first time once. You know what I mean? Most people do tend to hit 3, I'd say, where it's kind of like a hop, skip, and a jump kind of thing where it's like, this is the city that's closest to me. It was St. Louis. The next biggest city in that market is Chicago. And then I moved to Los Angeles. And that's a career trajectory that a lot of people have. It also is more creative than just being like, I'm in Chicago forever or whatever like that. You get a little bit more experience of like community and the road and connections and all that kind of stuff. Like, so that's one big answer as far as what I recommend to people. And again, if like you want to be in Houston, go there, you know, that kind of thing. Because you want to be there. That's the best thing you can do. So I'd say the best comedy cities in what'd you say? New Jersey? Jersey City. No, I'm kidding. America, Jersey City. No, I would say
Jersey City does have a good scene, in part to you and a bunch of other producers. There's a lot of great things going on.
Literally promoting it right now. But yeah, no, right. So I would say in the country, it's tough. I mean, Atlanta is like really great. You know, it's hard to not say Chicago. Like Chicago's that phenomenal. It's hard not to say New York. It's hard not to say LA. You know, I would say LA is the way comics talk about a great comedy scene. LA is not really that necessarily. It's great. But like if you're trying to grow as a comic, LA might not be what we're talking about. But if you're an audience member, you might find some very interesting comedy shows with some of the best comedians around. You might want to do a little research. You might want to do that anywhere. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I mean, Chicago also is like one of the most creative. Like has a ton of clubs. Atlanta has like 4 clubs, and it's big. It's such a big city. It's cool. It's got a lot of stuff. A lot of big stuff going on. It's like the only game in town too. It's like you're 2 hours from Birmingham. You're 4 hours from Knoxville. You're 7 from Savannah. You know, it's like there's not a lot else around. And Atlanta is such a big city, so its scene is like really cool and interesting. It's a lot to set. Basically, is the way Atlanta's set up. Even it would have a good comedy scene because it's just a big geographical area and a big giant major hub. So yeah, I mean, like probably Atlanta, Chicago, and that other third one. I don't know if these are in particular order. I mean, Denver's really great. Denver's a really, really great scene. And I mean, these are all kind of like more pre-COVID when I'm talking about. I'm not totally sure. This is my first time really going on the road, hitting a bunch of cities since COVID. I've been to a handful of cities, but like not like this, and not seeing like those kinds of comedy scenes. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of these things still hold true, but just keep that in mind.
Well, thank you.
You know, but yeah, Denver, super cool, you know, also. So I might say Denver.
That's some good info. Something popped in my mind when you were saying that, I mean, you're taking Leading Episode on the road and going to some of these places. I'm assuming you hit up comics who want to be on the show that are in that area, or do people travel with you?
Yes, well, like this tour, somebody's coming with me, Ryan Rummel. You know, but he'll be on some show they'll be, helping out in all sorts of ways, but maybe some merch. I don't know. He's just going to be helping me. I need an extra set of hands.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best. And then I hit up local on the scene, like I try and hit up the people I know. I try and get the venue to recommend some people they like. I usually ask comics I know that for recommendations or big comics in the scene.
Yeah.
If they can't do it, if they have recommendations, sometimes you catch a from everybody.
Yeah. So my question is, when you reach out to them, if you have like they said yes, all coming, whatever, you guys. I mean, because how many people are not including you in total part of the show? The number.
So I've been playing with it a little bit more, but essentially 8 to 16.
So what do you do? What happens? I mean, because you can obviously go if like 2 can't make it, you stick with 5 or whatever. But how? Yeah. So how do you deal with that or handle the situation when people do flake? If you people flake.
People flake. I don't like to say flake. People have to cancel. They can't do it every time. It happens every time you're dealing with that many people. You're asking them to do multiple things they're probably not used to. They might not be used to smoking weed. They might not be used to smoking weed and then getting up on stage. Mm-hmm. They're probably not used to doing something besides doing stand-up comedy or whatever other thing they do, the normal art form they do. So like things like that, people have to do other things. They're going to be late. They're in traffic. I mean, a million things come up. They get sick. I mean, it happens all the time. So what do I do? I mean, I've gotten less serious about how many people have to be on it specifically. I still try and book forward 16 and not, I only have 8. Okay. Usually will be like, I try and book 10, hoping I get 12. Because like some people will come to hang out, something like that. So that'll happen too. And that usually works out pretty organically. Like, this person dropped out, but like, can you do this? And they're there because they want to hang out and smoke weed. They're, fine getting up. There's also, so like that sort of, the lineup fluctuates a lot, I would say. Yeah. That's just how it is, how it goes.
True. I get it. Like people, life happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
But I do find that interesting that people who are like they're stand-up comics, but their comfort level and it's what you're saying as being a different form. I don't know. I never thought of that where I thought it would be something that would be so a little bit daunting to them. I get it that, they're high and they have to be on stage and perform. But I just thought it would be, you're still interacting with the audience or you're answering questions, you're doing whatever. I didn't think it would be that different than their set is scripted.
Yeah, you know how it is. It's like, I mean, it's all sorts of reasons, I'm sure. It's like little things that people have just said over the years. It's not like any one big thing where like, I think it's daunting. I'm sure people just like, some people are excited to do it and then they just like need to take a tea break. And they're, some people just have like, their last time they smoked was probably bad. You come up with a million ideas of why that would happen out of 8+ people every single show. Yeah. We're talking close to 1,000 spots.
Have you had anything go sideways?
Nothing too crazy. Where people are like throwing stuff or something like that. I tried to light a joint in the theater on 420. It was just like, not happening. And that was it.
I'm sorry, what happened?
I tried to light a joint on one of the 420 one year. Like in the audience, it was just like, dude. Like someone was like answering a question, I just like caught his eye, like fucking do it.
And they do. Yeah. They have an edible before they come on the show. Is it always an edible, or what is the form of whoever the like? Just for people who are listening and don't know the structure of the show of like, I don't know, the behind the scenes or like who. When do they get high to when they come on? Is it edible? Do they smoke? How much of it? What's going on here?
So generally, we open door. People start sitting in the audience. The comics will arrive around, 10, 15, 20-minute period, I'll rush them to an alley of some kind to the theater. And then, there'll be like a smoke sesh. Some people do arrive already high. Some people take edibles. Some people bring their own thing. I try and provide something. So some people are total lightweights and willing to do the show, and they're like, "Oh, I'll have one hit," and I'm like, "Fine." And some people are, you're dragging them kicking and straight to do the show. No, kidding, but some people are like there to get high. You get that kind of thing. Like it's it's always that kind of thing. If I forget to bring a bowl, it'll be the one time nobody brought a bowl. If I forget to bring papers, it's the one time like there's only one bowl, and like or one bong that everybody has to hit. Like really, something not really as passable amongst a giant group of people. That kind of lame stuff. So,
and how often do you smoke, or how often do you partake in the marijuana?
Oh, at the show?
No, just in general. Just in your life. Because you can't be high. I'm assuming you're not high as a host, are you?
Probably every time.
How do you? So you're just so used to it to keeping. You never seem high when you're. You seem what?
It's hilarious. Well, I smoke a lot. So
that's true. I didn't know how high your tolerance was. That's why I was asking, because I was just like, either he's managing this very well, or like, I guess also it depends how much you take, but. What is what's your first high story?
Oh, the story. So like one time at like a party, like I think it was like the summer after high school. We were like it was like late, and there were like 5 of us on like a porch, and like they were passing around a bowl, and that was the first time I got high. And somebody had brought like, there were like snacks. It was like a party for like high school, so it wasn't like it like turned into like a we're getting drunk. But so there were snacks, and somebody had brought a pie, a cherry pie, and but nobody had touched this pie all night. It had not been touched.
Wow, that kid must have been so upset. Nobody ate my pie.
Maybe, but then like people are starting to go to sleep. Like I'm that like smoked, and I'm like, I don't know if it affected me or whatever. And then we're walking around, me and one other guy are walking around like trying to find places to crash, and there's people like everywhere. We're like, and every time we walked through the kitchen, which was the center of this house, was like this pie, and I just kept like grabbing handfuls of and eating this pie. And then in the morning, I like got up, and I remember walking in the kitchen, and someone was just like, "What the hell happened to the pie? Somebody ate this whole pie." They were like, "Oh man, somebody liked the pie." They were almost weirded out.
Well, pie's a good munchie snack.
Yeah, what's your favorite munchie snack? What's your go-to?
Oh man, it's gonna sound silly, but like I kind of go like veggies a lot. Like I'll do like carrot hummus, or like even just make a salad, and that feels so fresh.
Yes.
Like what a healthy muncher.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll eat anything. I mean, I'll just like do a pickle. I'll do chocolate. I'll do whatever.
But you'll crave veggies though.
It's also like the quickest thing ever, and I know it's like probably better than.
Is it the crunch?
Beans.
Does it have to do anything with the texture?
Crunch is big, yeah. Carrots are probably one of my favorite snacks in general. But carrot hummus, like that tang on a hummus, is so good.
Are you a vegetarian?
No.
He's just a guy who likes vegetables.
No, Jordan almost got a little excited.
No, I was liking the vibes.
I mean, munchies are good. I mean, if I've got like fucking carnitas right in front of me, like that's what I'm going for. But it's not what I bridge all the time,
I always have carnitas.
Wouldn't that be the best?
And cherry pie.
Oh, I gotta get some of this stuff. I'm gonna go shopping soon. Yeah, I don't know. Those are probably big ones. I mean, we do candy at the show, so I do always have candy around, and I do eat a lot of candy. So can't deny that I'm eating mini Hershey bars and sweet tarts and Starburst and stuff.
So just want to check back in with your list if you have any you want to add.
Oh, all right. What do we got? Jack Parr, Steve Harvey. Oh man, where was I? Alex Trebek, Pat Sajak. I didn't say the big ones. Man, game shows. Who hosted the match game? I forget. Who hosted? Oh, well, Chris Hardwick. There's probably a lot of like more current. Oh, yeah, right. Howie Mandel. See, all these guys get game shows by the end. Kurt Broadholer hosted Bunk. Oh, yeah, there were all these like, Jimmy Carr hosted Distraction on Comedy Central. Like, there's all those kinds of Ben Stein. Just trying to throw some out there. Am I getting anywhere close to the number I need to be to have some respect around here?
Oh yeah. Honestly, we've had people who just get 0. So if you get above a 0, you're already in the upper echelon.
Yeah, we do have people that do get really high numbers.
Right. Some people get really competitive. So like
weed strains.
Yeah. So you actually mentioned this before, but what's like the who's like the most competitive person you've ever had be a part of Weeding Up the Stoned?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a really tough one. I mean, I guess in just the way of the person to beat is Hannah Trav from Philly. She has, I believe, made it to the end like 6 or 7 times.
Wow.
Like an incredible number. Like she could be the highest person in the world and everyone would be like, no, definitely not. You've never seen weed. Yeah. It's just funny. I don't know. Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
I'd say if you're on a show with Anna, like that's when you want to really just try and come up with strategies.
Yeah.
If you had to pick, there are no rules. Any like TV network or streaming service for Weeding Up the Stone to be on. Which would you choose?
I don't know. You tell me.
Choose your tech giant.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I feel like it's just saying NBC or something. I mean, Adult Swim or something like that would be sick. But
it feels like the first time
anything.
like Barack Obama would publicly smoke weed on camera. You know, like that's what your show feels like.
That would be
your
great.
show is like the hot ones, but for when then you start getting the high ones.
Oh man.
And then you start getting celebs that come on there and try to play the game show.
Somebody throw me some production money and we'll make that happen, right? I mean, how hard can it possibly be?
Not hard at all. Definitely not hard.
I mean, that's your pitch, though, right? You'd be like, hey, guys, listen, this will cost you so little, but make you tons.
Yeah.
I think that is the pitch. Yes. I know, right?
Just pay me an ounce of my time.
I know. It already costs more than that.
You are an entrepreneur, though. I saw recently that there are Weeding Out the Stone cards. Is this true?
Yeah, so I made some cards for this tour. Yeah, I thought it would be fun to do like a prototype, and then people were like excited about them.
That's
and so I was like, let's do it. So I just found that, I made some cards, and I'm still playing with them, so I'm looking for feedback. And but yeah, I'm going to be giving some away as prizes. We'll try and sell a few if people want to, buy one and test it out. Like, just that would be super great. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. I've already gotten some interest. Like, it's cool. Definitely one of these things. Like, I mean, you're just like, oh my god, somebody like I need a board game company. I need a television studio because we're gonna have card games in every dispensary in America.
Yeah.
It does feel like that kind of thing. You're like, oh yeah, we'd be just a bar game. Like every bar that's got games could easily just go like, oh, this feels like a thing we should have. Weeding Up the Stone, the game. So there's all sorts of things it can go to. But like just trying to throw stuff at the wall. I'm not the only person in the world with an idea. But it's fun. It's fun to do live. It's like, it's my favorite thing. I'm still always building on top of it, trying to make it crazier. And yes, crazy huge guests would be awesome. I mean, we have some crazy guests coming up in New York and LA. I'm doing the show in LA, right? So it's gonna be cool. Yeah, I'm stoked. So yeah, but it's fun to go at like everywhere. We've done the show with like regular people even, and it's also funny. Yeah, regular person editions, and it's like just as funny. It's a great thing. It's like the game when the games are fun and setting people up to say funny things, then it's like always fun. You know, that's like the goal of every game
Yeah.
on Weeding Out the Stone. We like kind of learned early on doing game shows before weeding when there is a right answer, when the goal is to get the right answer. It's kind of not great for comedy. It's good for, do you know it? I'm engaged to see if you know this thing. But as long as there is no definite right answer that you're supposed to say, it's usually like a funny game show. Is how I think about it.
Yeah, the questions are clever, for sure.
Yeah.
Or the task or whatever you have them doing the show. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, but we got a dates coming up. It's going to be crazy. Going all over, Washington, doing California for the first time. Going to Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Philly, bunch in Jersey, New York, Buffalo, and Ithaca. It's going to be cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
we wish you the best with that.
Yes. Did you want to add any more hosts at the list? Right at the buzzer. Last shot that you want to take before we wrap up for today.
Oh man, I feel like I'm just gonna start saying names of people where I'm like, I assume they hosted a game show. I mean, like Mark Maron had a game show.
Okay.
Like for a season. Like I could just start doing like these weird non-hits.
I guess that counts. Does that count? We're doing that.
I didn't know that.
That
I think
counts.
he had like some VH1 game show or something like that.
VH1.
Stephen Merchant, does he host a game show on the BBC? I'm grasping at straws over
Check
here.
on that one.
Ray Combs. Ray Combs hosted Family Feud.
Mm-hmm.
Also hosted Family Feud. It's been Steve Harvey, Drew Carey. Was there someone else in between there? Oh man. Game show house. I feel like
he did the Crystal Maze.
See, exactly. Everybody hosts a game show. It's one of those gigs, you know?
Well, many host them, but few are the masters of the game show, right?
They're future Becks.
There you go.
Many, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll tap out.
All right. Well, you got a very solid and very lucky 21, which would give you blackjack if we were in casinos. So
great.
That's it. That's the number right there. Alex, congratulations for getting 21. Thank you for being a part of this game show of sorts. Please, again, plug anything you want to plug that's coming up and let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, can I rattle up these dates?
Do it!
Oh, sick. So weedingoutthestone.com. That's where you find tickets to Weeding Out the Stone. Next one is Friday, April 1st in Ambler, Pennsylvania at the Lab. Saturday, April 2nd in Leonardo, New Jersey at Smod Castle. Saturday, April 9th in Jersey City, New Jersey at SIP Studios. Wednesday, April 13th in Portland, Oregon at Helium Comedy Club. Friday, April 15th in Seattle, Washington at the Jewel Box Theater. Saturday, April 16th in San Francisco, California at Piano Fight. Monday, April 18th in Los Angeles, California at the Elysian Theater. Wednesday, April 20th, 420 edition, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Helium Comedy Club. Friday, April 22nd in New York City, New York at Asylum NYC. Saturday, April 23rd in Emmaus, Pennsylvania at the Emmaus Theater. Wednesday, April 27th in Buffalo, New York at Helium Comedy Club. Thursday, April 28th in Ithaca, New York at Cinemapolis. More dates are coming soon. Tickets go on sale for Richmond Comedy Sports on May 13th. That's everything.
What? Woo!
Nice.
Wow, that
was so good. People, pick a date that works for you and go see this. Go see Alex shine.
Yes,
amen. This is the thing. Yeah, and then we're just on everything at Weeding Out the Stone on Instagram, all that jazz. If you Google Weeding Out the Stone, the show comes up.
Yes!
It's there, people. It's there.
Go find it.
Also, if somebody can't travel, what's going on in Jersey City? It seems like there's a couple of shows going on in Jersey City. Do they have a couple of comedy shows there?
There's a ton of comedy. So a lot of people are doing all sorts of shows. I've got shows. Besides even my shows, there's shows at Brightside Tavern all the time. Dorian's and there's tons of shows. We're trying to throw a bunch of shows at SIP Studios. I also run a show at Corgi Spirits. The next one is April 30th. That's a super fun show. Stand-up show, Then I have that's a ticketed show, and then we're doing free comedy every Friday and Saturday at JSQ Lounge in Journal Square at 7 p.m. So there's a free stand-up show there. It's a really intimate room. They did some work over COVID. It's really nice. They got all the trimmings and food and stuff. It's really cool, it's right off the PATH train. And then I also Pet Shop, is every third Thursday. And that's another stand-up show. It's 2 free stand-up shows in a night, and it's going crazy, honestly, packed every time. So those shows are going super well. I'm running a bunch of shows with a bunch of people, but Deep Space Gallery's got shows. There's more shows popping up all over. Departed Souls just had a show that Gordon Baker ran that was really fun. I know more people are looking to throw shows all over. We're trying to make SIP Studios a thing. Honestly, it's been a super cool place to work and out of and everything. And they've been really great with the Weeding Out the Stoned. And I think we're going to be live streaming out of there, doing all sorts of really cool stuff. Weeding Out the Stoned included. So check out Jersey City sometimes.
What's the deal with SIP
Stuff
Studios?
going.
For people who don't know about it, how do you get there? Where is it close to? Is that Journal Square? Is that somewhere else?
It is Journal Square, 140 SIP Ave, right across from the Journal Square PATH station. It's an event space and co-working space, and so it's kind of set up like a theater, and it's a basement theater. Seats 150. It's run by a production company, so they are trying to film event and throw events, and it's a really cool place. Trying to be kind of a creative WeWork or something, for lack of a better term.
Cool.
People have started to run shows out of there. Tag Team is running out there too, Weeding Out the Stone. They're revitalizing some of their calendar. They're kind of did a bunch of work recently on their space, and they're continuing to do so. I got high hope for them. Check it out. Check out their website, SIP Studios JC.
Nice.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, people, for listening to Sessions with Mary Jane. Check out latenighthump.com, LNH Studios. We have videos, sketch comedy, morning shower podcast, and our film, still circling the festival route. So we will catch you later. Peace.